During the Summer Game Fest showcase, I saw the trailer for New World Aeternum, and at the time I was quite excited. I'd played New World at launch, and I'd honestly lost touch with it. Plus, these days I don't really have very much time to keep up with MMOs, so the idea of New World being relaunched as an ARPG was intriguing to me. And so I almost included this in my Best of Summer Game Fest video, a thing that I was excited for. But at the same time, there's this small nagging voice in the very back of my head that said, look into this one, there might be a little bit more to this story. Because there's just something about the messaging that didn't quite add up. And boy am I glad that I did, because otherwise I would have been rightly roasted. This entire situation is a complete mess, and nothing about New World Aeternum is what you think. And so today I'm going to try to dive in and untangle the mess that is New World Aeternum. But if that core idea of an MMO relaunching as an ARPG is interesting to you, there's another game that I want to talk about in a future video. Originally they're both going to be the same one. That's no longer appropriate here. So look forward to my video on Wayfinder and its relaunch as Wayfinder Echoes in the future. Get subscribed, maybe leave a like while you're down there. But for now, let's get back to New World Aeternum and go dumpster diving to unravel this mess, starting with a fateful trailer from Summer Game Fest 2024.
This is Aeternum.
So this introduced a couple of really big marketing points. Play solo or with your friends, and the definitive New World experience. In addition, the developers released a rather long, roughly 30-minute video where they were addressing primarily new players on console, talking about what New World is. And throughout that video, they were calling New World an action RPG. Which personally, upon first glance I took it as, oh, so Amazon has decided that the MMO gameplay model has completely failed. They can't keep the content cadence, which is blindingly obvious from the fact the game's basically gotten one DLC in 3 years, and every update adds about 2 bugs for every one it fixes, plus it barely has any new content. Now I'm sure, given that New World hasn't been doing so hot as an MMO, Amazon would love to just wave a magic wand and turn it into an ARPG. After all, ARPGs are pretty hot right now. Path of Exile's been doing really well considering it's a hardcore niche game, and Diablo 4, like it or hate it, has been explosively popular with Season 4 Season of Loot. But here's the thing. Just waving a magic wand and saying, hey, New World's an ARPG now because we added a single-player focused story for the leveling experience and some solo endgame trials does not an ARPG make. At its core, New World still has things like siege warfare. New World still has raids, and it still has multiplayer dungeons, which are multiplayer first, and probably not soloable, or at the very least, they certainly weren't soloable back when I played the game. And worse yet, this isn't even going to be the last time in this video that you're going to hear about Amazon just redefining terms and making up definitions. They also tried to redefine what the term free update means, which is to say that yes, New World Aeternum is a free update for PC players. Those PC players that have already purchased the Rise of the Angry Earth DLC, because they chose to tie much of the new content specifically to that DLC, which is quite unpopular and therefore is not owned by a majority of players. So if you're a returning player who doesn't want to give Amazon $30, and to be honest with this behavior, you shouldn't, all you get are their quote-unquote quality of life features. That said, if you do own Rise of the Angry Earth, you are getting the raid, you are getting the PvP zone, but there's no new weapon, and overall for a big update in June, this is pretty darn scarce on content, especially since it doesn't actually come out until much later in the year. Instead, where the big change is going to come is for console players who previously couldn't play the game at all, and Amazon is likely hyping it up in this way, trying to make it sound like a fun, new, cool, trendy ARPG, while trying to simultaneously disassociate it from the failing MMO that is New World in 2024. In an attempt to bring in a wave of new players, an audience which I suspect they will struggle to maintain because all those people are going to come in, they're going to expect new content, and based on the past 3 years, they're definitely not going to get it. And so how did the PC player base take being treated as second-class citizens, essentially being told, in June there's going to be a big announcement, oh, by the way, here's a big thing for console players who don't even play the game right now, and it's coming in October. No new stuff for you. They took it predictably poorly. Now, to be honest with you, sometimes when people get upset and review bomb a game, I'm like, is it really that big of a deal? Or maybe you should do something a little bit more constructive, like stop paying for battle passes. But in this case, I completely understand why people have been review bombing, and I fully support it. Because the tried and true method of just stop giving Amazon money doesn't work if you weren't giving Amazon your money anyway. And since Amazon's main goal here is to make money by targeting a new audience, the best thing you can do is spread this around with word of mouth, part of why I'm making this video. And so out of a 3,700 reviews that have been added to New World recently, a nice toasty 10% of them are positive. This is a time where the PC player base was already feeling neglected. They already feel like their problems are falling on deaf ears. They just wanted a little bit of acknowledgement, for AGS to say, hey, we hear you, we know, these are problems, and we're working on them. It might take some time, but we've got a plan. It'll take this amount of time to do this, that amount of time to do that. Basically, what people wanted was a roadmap. And instead, what AGS gave them was, by the way, you're second-class citizens because you aren't giving us enough money. We want all the money from the new console players, please. Oh, and by the way, here's a few updates. Hopefully that keeps you happy, I guess. But first thing I want to clarify, because very often when developers make bafflingly stupid announcements like this, people jump to the logical conclusion of these developers are bafflingly stupid. But very often it's not their call to make. It's John Moneyman in the marketing department who decided that, hey, this is a great idea. We'll just tell the gamers that they are in fact wrong. We tell them how our game terms work. This is not an MMO, this is an ARPG, and then all of the console gamers will do exactly what we say and give us all the money, which of course is not how things work at all. And while I think this is a monumentally stupid unforced error on the part of AGS, and that it's going to kill any future hopes that New World had of recovering, I don't bear any ill will towards the developers personally, and I'm not going to personally attack them. Again, I think they're people who are just doing their job. And I also suspect that whoever in PR and marketing came up with this entire harebrained scheme, they were expecting some backlash. They were expecting some negative publicity. In fact, they might have even been counting on it to boost interest in their product. Because recently, we've seen a lot of outrage marketing, and we've seen a lot of marketing that kind of is driven by outrage. Good example of this, Hogwarts Legacy. There's a ton of outrage when it came out, and it became one of the best-selling games ever. Stellar Blade, controversy after controversy. Did that kill the game? Nope, it sold over 1 million copies immediately. Dragon Age: The Veilguard is announced. Trailer's terrible, everyone says it's terrible. Gameplay comes out, a lot of people go, oh, that doesn't look too bad. Then there's Ubisoft, which I swear they're just doing it intentionally at this point, because every time Ubisoft has a trailer, there's some sort of drama, whether real or imagined. A bunch of people get angry on Twitter, and then Ubisoft is probably going to go on to say, oh look, Star Wars Outlaws, one of our best-selling games all year. Assassin's Creed Shadows, best-selling AC game ever. But there's a very big key difference between those games and what's happening here. Because either A, a lot of the people upset were outside of a game's core demographic anyway, in which case they don't matter. The company's not losing sales over that because those weren't sales to begin with. Or in the case of Dragon Age: The Veilguard, while yes, a lot of people who would buy Dragon Age were upset by the trailer, they were then immediately placated by the gameplay reveal. There's something that they felt like, oh, this is for me, they're listening, people are talking about this, actually that sounds pretty cool. Whereas everything that Amazon has done since has just rubbed salt in the wound of a PC player base. They've done a little bit to reassure existing PC players of, hey, we're not going to take away your existing game. All the content that you have currently, you will be able to play, but they're also not doing anything to make it better. Still locking a majority of the new content behind a DLC that most people do not own and clearly do not want to buy. Still making this mostly focused on new players and console players rather than the existing core of a PC audience. All that kind of stuff, which is doing them absolutely no favors. And so all of this is a very long-winded way to say that Amazon Games is doing the absolute wrong thing with New World Aeternum. They had the perfect opportunity to revive New World, to snatch victories from the jaws of a dying MMO. And instead, what have they done? Well, they turned the easiest win they've had all year into a massive loss. But who knows, I could be saying this prematurely. Maybe come October, 1 million console players will immediately buy New World, the game will be quote-unquote thriving, and everyone who's angry here on PC will have been quietly forgotten. I honestly can't tell the future, but personally I hope the tactic of ignore your core audience, try to find a new one and make a bunch of money, isn't ultimately fruitful. For me personally, I don't think I'm going to be checking out New World Aeternum. If it was a standalone ARPG, absolutely yes, you have my attention. But given that it's still an MMO, and given that I don't really have people to play with, I'm good. I played New World at launch, I definitely got $40 worth of fun from the game back then. It was a buggy mess, but it was a fun buggy mess with some friends, and I have no desire to return. In short, I'm not the target audience, either for New World Aeternum or New World as a product. That said, I also hope that a lot of the PC players who have been sticking with the game, who are part of a core audience, get something better than what New World Aeternum offers. I really hope the roadmap they reveal includes a lot of new content for PC, and a lot of new endgame activities, things to actually do if you're playing the game day after day and week after week. Because that's what New World needs. That's what any MMO needs to continue. And without that, it's going to keep dying. Sure, a few people might join now, and they'll quickly get bored, run out of things to do, and inevitably leave, moving on to another game. Now that said, I haven't played New World since launch, so if you have been part of a core PC audience that's been playing regularly, let me know how the game's changed. Tell me about the worst bug you encountered or your favorite moment. Just leave some of those thoughts down in the comments below. And if you're looking for something else to watch, get subscribed and look out for my video on Wayfinder Echoes, which is a much better lesson in how to take a failing, dying MMO, revive a project, and provide something that the customers overall are pretty darn happy with. And hey, if it's already out, I'll link it up in the card and down below. That said, before I go, a special thanks to my patrons and channel members for the continued support. For as low as $1 a month, you can make videos just like this one possible. Link to support is down below. And a big thanks to everyone who watched to the end. Like I said at the top, when I first saw this from the Summer Game Fest, I was really excited. I thought it might actually be a standalone game, and I'm really glad that I actually took the time to look into it instead of just making a video based on my initial thoughts after watching a trailer. Because my god, this is way more of a mess than I ever could have imagined. So I hope you enjoyed the wild ride, and I'll see you in the next one.